Hello everybody, and welcome back to another video. In today's video, we're taking a look at Origin Dialga VSTAR, which is the other poster VSTAR that is going to be coming out in Astral Radiance alongside Palkia, which I have already done a video on. And today we're looking at Dialga, and I think this one is definitely worse than Palkia, especially results in Japan are definitely showing that it is worse. But I definitely think that it is not a horrible deck, and I think it can win games, and maybe even tournaments. Like honestly, if you optimize a Dialga list, I think this deck can be really good. So let's just get right into it. We have the Dialga V-Star, which has 2 attacks. The first one, Metal Blast, for 1 colorless energy is 40 damage, and then 40 more for each metal energy attached to it. Obviously this will multiply pretty sufficiently. The 7 metal energy, which isn't too hard to do actually, and you're hitting 320, which is going to be one-shotting pretty much almost every relevant Pokemon in the game besides Rapid Shock Urshifu, which is pretty decent. One-shotting almost every single relevant Pokemon is really nice. With the 7 energy, and like I just mentioned, 7 energy isn't hard to do with Intrepid Sword, Attached Returns, Raihan, Metal Saucer. It's definitely easier than it might seem. We have a couple tricks on how to just load absolute ton amount of energy onto a Dialga. And then the V-Star power is actually an attack that costs metal colorless, so 5 energy. It does 220 damage, and then you just get to take another turn. Straight up, 5 energy, get another turn. And this can be used for more turn attachments, so you can get more energy attached to your board, things like that. Just really solid. And it's just going to be, it's also going to be used for like taking back tempo, which can also be really nice. There's just, the V-Star power is just really solid if we can get those 5 energy on. And it's not that hard to do because of the build we are playing. Of course, we have to run 3 copies of the Origin Dialga V. Now, honestly, this card isn't great. For a single colorless energy, you get to attach 2 metal energy cards for your discard pile to this Pokemon, and then for 3 metal and colorless, it's 180. It's not that good. If this first attack was like attached to your bench, I think it would be pretty decent, but it's not, which, I think this card is literally just here to evolve into our V-Star. Now we're going to be running 4 copies of Diancie, and honestly, this is kind of what makes this deck tick, specifically because Diancie has an ability that says when it's in the active spot, your opponent's supporter cards don't affect any of your benched basic Pokemon. And basically, all we care about here with our Diancie is boss. Essentially, what this Diancie says is your bench basics can't be bossed, which is really strong. Being able to just prevent our Pokemon on the bench that are basics from just getting knocked out is really nice. And we can just stick this Diancie up here while we set up our Dialga. The attack is also pretty decent. Spike draw, 1 colorless energy, 20 damage, and you get to draw 2 cards. Usually we're going to be Intrepid sorting most of the early games. We're not going to be using this attack too much. If you do manage to find your choice belt, it can be kind of useful to get some damage on there. Like you can hit with 50 damage with the spike draw a couple cards, and then hit with the spike draw again, and that'll be hitting for 70 damage. And then you'll be able to come in and knock out like an Arceus V-Star with the V-Star power on the Dialga, so that's like kind of decent. But other than that, Diancie is just going to be sitting there in the active while we're doing other things to set up rapport. We're running a 2/2 Bronzong line, and this is the Bronzong from Battle Styles. Lets you freely move your metal energy around your board, and this is a really key part of our deck, because basically the entire strategy here is we're just going to be not evolving our Pokemon at all, just sitting with a Diancie up there, so our opponent can't boss our bench basics, because if we do evolve them, they can be bossed because they're no longer basic Pokemon. And we're going to be using Intrepid Sword on Zacian to accumulate a hand and accumulate metal energy on Zacian, most importantly. And then when we're ready, we'll just evolve into our Bronzong, evolve into our Dialga, move all those metal energies we've accumulated on Zacian onto a Dialga, and then we can just hit. And the V-Star power allows us to potentially get back a turn that we used just sitting there using Intrepid Sword. And when that Dialga gets knocked out, you can just go back into another Diancie for a turn, and then just do the same thing again. Intrepid Sword, accumulate a little bit more energy, give yourself some time to play Raihans and attach metal energy and find metal saucers, and you'll be hitting with Dialga for one-shots again pretty quickly. So you're running a 2/2 bronze online, 2 copies of the bronzer, of course, as well. And then, like I was just been mentioning, let me just go ahead and mute my computer real quick because that Discord notification. All right. Then we have 2 copies of Zacian V, which is going to be using the Intrepid Sword. Of course, that lets you draw 3 cards. If any of them are metal energies, attach them to Zacian, and then put the rest in your hand. So this will be drawing us cards, as well as getting our metal energy in play, a couple extra metal energy. And then the attack, Brave Blade, metal for 230. Pokemon can't attack. It can be a pretty nice backup option after your Dialga gets knocked out. Zacian is a pretty solid attacker as well. Being able to one-shot evolving Pokemon like Arceus V, what other Pokemon? The Mew V, Genesect V, things like that. Pretty nice. So Zacian just solid card, and always has been. It's been what made ADP so broken. It's what made Lube Metal such a good deck. So there's slightly different purpose in this deck. We're mostly just going to be using it to just sit there and draw cards. But it's really important in this deck. We have a couple of tech Pokemon, 1 copy of Manaphy, so our Pokemon can't be sniped, because, Diancie doesn't prevent everything from happening to our bench basic Pokemon. They can't be bossed, but they can still be sniped by Jolteon or Rapid Flow on Urshifu. So Manaphy can't protect that, and it itself is a basic, which means it can't be bossed up, so in a matchup that is important, it won't be able to get bossed up. And then 1 copy of Lumineon V to go ahead and search out a supporter, and this, of course, can be used or can be gotten out of the deck with Quick Ball and Ultra Ball. Supporter cards, we're running 4 copies of Marnie, and I have 2 copies of Research here. So 4 Marnie, 2 Research as our draw supporters. And this might seem a little bit weird, but we have Metal Saucers in our deck that we really do not want to discard. We really want to be saving our Metal Saucers till the very end of the game to get those last burst of energy into play. And Marnie just puts all the cards at the bottom of the deck. If Cynthia was in format, we would definitely play 4 Cynthia over Marnie, just because we want to save those resources. And we need to be able to draw through our deck as well. Marnie's the best solution to that. You can play Judge if you want. Maybe you could play a Judge and 2 Research and 4 Marnie if you really want more draw support. You can play Shauna. There's some options if you want more draw support, but I think 4 Marnie, 2 Research is definitely good. And keep in mind, if you do have a hand that's really bad, and you want to research it, you can just Lumineon for the research right out of your deck. You don't have to have it in your hand. Then we have 2 copies of Boss's Orders, because every deck has to play Boss. If you're not gussing up your opponent's bench Pokemon, you're removing yourself a very good winning condition at some point in the games that you will be playing. Either gussing up a 1 prizer per game, gussing up a 3 prizer, knocking it out for 1 shot with the Dialga per game, things like that. 2 copies of Raihan, because more energy in play is good, and Raihan does exactly that. It accelerates energy and searches for any 1 card we want, so we can just play Raihan, get energy out from the discard pile. Maybe we're forced to discard with an Ultra Ball, because without Raihan, it feels really bad discarding metal energy. And so the Raihan can just go ahead and recover those, and you can search your deck for a Tentative turn as well, or a Metal Saucer if you're at that point in the game when the Metal Saucers will be something that you want to use. So Raihan is really good. And then 1 copy of Roxanne, which says you can only play this card if your opponent has 3 or fewer prize cards remaining, and then both players shuffle their hand to their deck. You get 6 cards, and your opponent gets 2. So it could be a nice little comeback card. And because you're Diancies, you are giving your opponent prize cards. You're letting them knock out at least 2 Diancies, and they're going to knock out a Dialga. So they're going to be down to 2 prize cards remaining. And so then your Roxanne can come in and set them down to a low hand size. That can be a way to come back if you're kind of behind as well. So just Roxanne, really solid card. Item cards, we're running 4 Quick Ball, of course. Just a Quick Ball is just such a good card for setting up. 4 copies of Metal Saucer. So we want to be able to get as many metal energy in play as possible. And since our Dialga needs metal energy to do more damage, the more metal energy we have in play, the better, and the more ways we have to get metal energy in play, the better. So 4 Metal Saucer makes complete sense. And now, something that might not make complete sense is our other searching cards in the deck. We are running 2 copies of Ultra Ball, and 2 copies of Level Ball, and 1 copy of Evo Incense. And this might seem a little bit strange. Like, why are you not playing that many ways to start your evolutions? Um, and that is simply because, like, half or even more than half of the game, you're not wanting your evolution Pokemon. You want to keep them basic so they can't be bossed up by sitting in the active with the Diancie and with the Zacian on your bench using a Drepasaur to get more energy in play. Um, and the incense and the 2 Ultra Ball are just enough that you'll be able to get the Dialga when you want them. Through like a Marnie, you'll have played enough cards that it won't be too hard to find the Ultra Balls or the incenses. Um, and then the 2 Level Ball are only used for getting out Diancie and Bronzor. Both are really, really important, and you really want to get out of Diancie as soon as possible in the game. And Bronzor, of course, you will need to develop. Usually by like your turn 3, if you go first, you'll want to be getting a Bronzor and a Dialga down that turn, so you can be evolving and attacking next turn. So the level balls will help with that. Then we also have 2 copies of Air Balloon. So we have a Pivot as well. Because if we don't have a Diancie down, we can't just promote it when our active Diancie gets knocked out. We'll want to have a pivot so we can play a Level Ball or play Marnie and find a Diancie, bench the Diancie, and then retreat into the Diancie. And Air Balloon will usually be going on to a Zacian. Sometimes they can go on to a Dialga. If you do start with a Dialga, but usually you're wanting it on the Zacian. There's other tools you want on your Dialga, like a Choice Belt. And Bronzong does have a retreat cost of 3, so that will not remain a pivot for the entire game, which is something that maybe is necessary for you to win. 1 copy of Switch as well, because like I just mentioned, we have these Pokemon with retreat cost of 3. I'm pretty sure our V-Star does have a retreat cost of 3. Yeah, so Origin Dialga V-Star does have a retreat cost of 3. Bronzong has a retreat cost of 3, which is just some pretty hefty retreat Pokemon, so we want to have 1 copy of Switch as well. And 1 copy of Choice Belts for hitting the numbers and just letting us hit as much damage as possible. Then we're running a couple stadiums, 2 copies of Training Court, and without the stadiums, we don't have any answer to Path. And if we can't knock out an opponent's Path at the peak, we're not using a Intrepid Sword, and that is a huge deal because if we're not using a Intrepid Sword, we're not getting extra energy into play. Which is something that is really, really important to our strategy. If we're not getting those extra energy in play, we're not attacking by the turn 3 that we really want to be. And Training Core is just a solid stadium as well, just being able to let you get back energies. I mentioned how it can sometimes be kind of annoying to having to discard a couple of metal energy with Ultra Ball and Quick Balls. Well, Training Core can just get those right back, and they can you can discard energy and extra metal energy with Quick Ball. Grab a Pokemon and put the Training Cord in play and not use it. In case your opponent Marnies, you'll have the guaranteed energy attachment that following turn. That's also something you can do. There's just Training Cord's just a good card. So we're going to be running 2 Training Cords, and energy is going to be 12 metal energy. And I had 13 on the list for a little bit. 13 felt good, but I wanted the Training Cords in here, so I took out metal energy for a Training Cord. If you're not worried about Path, maybe you're watching this in the future and these cards are actually out. And Path is not huge in a meta right now. You can maybe bump those Training Courts and add in maybe another Search Out and another energy, because I think 13, 14, maybe even 15 metal energy is pretty good because you want to be hitting the Intrepid Swords, you want to be getting the attachments down. If you're not doing those, you're not going to be getting metal energy in play, which is super, super important. You want to be hitting Intrepid Swords as often as you can. I tried a Rangaroo in this list for a bit. It was pretty good, but I ended up just cutting it for just another consistency card because I felt like I didn't have the room on my bench for it. So that's another option, playing a Rangaroo to guarantee that energy. I think if you play the higher energy count, you should play the Rangaroo because you'll often have more than 1 metal energy in your hand. So you can get the attachment down as well as stack the energy on top for a Intrepid Sword. So yeah, that's the list. I definitely think this deck is a little bit underrated in Japan right now. I played it a bit. It's really solid. It's not bad. It does have a couple really glaring weaknesses, and if you know how to exploit those weaknesses, you will beat it. But I think as long as people aren't playing against this deck, and it stays kind of a little bit of a rogue concept, and people won't know how to play against you, and they won't be able to exploit those just absolutely just terrible weaknesses that the deck has. Um, I'll just go ahead and say those weaknesses. Knocking out Bronzong after it evolves can be kind of tough. You can play around it, but it's just a little bit annoying to have to do that. Also, what's another one? Oh, there had another one, but I can't remember it. If I remember it, I'll comment it down below and on this video. But yeah, that's gonna do it for the video. If you guys liked it, don't forget to leave a like. If you guys want to see more videos, don't forget to subscribe. I do future format content like this all the time on this channel. So if you guys want to see more of this, don't forget to subscribe. That's gonna do it, and I'll see you guys in the next one.